I was nothing more than a quiet intern, spending my days making copies and carrying coffee cups from one desk to another, when something unusual caught my attention. In the center of Northwave Solutions' bustling lobby, an elderly man stood completely alone. Employees rushed past him from every direction, eyes glued to phones and schedules, no one slowing down long enough to notice his confusion. At the front desk, the receptionist, Olivia Reed, was clearly trying to help. But it wasn't working. Her polite smile couldn't hide the fact that she didn't understand what the man was trying to say. That's when I noticed it, the small, deliberate movements of his hands, the strain in his expression as he tried to communicate without sound. He was signing. My heart began to race. Before fear could stop me, I stepped forward and gently signed, "Hello, can I help you?" The change in his face was instant. His shoulders relaxed, and relief washed over his eyes like he had finally been seen. What I didn't know in that moment was that from the upper gallery overlooking the lobby, someone else was watching too. Michael Harrington, the CEO of Northwave Solutions, had witnessed every second. But before I take you further, let me ask you something. Have you ever learned a skill purely to help someone you love? Maybe you mastered a recipe, fixed something you'd never touched before, or learned a language just to connect. If you have, share it in the comments. Now let me take you back to the morning that quietly changed everything. My name is Sarah Mitchell. When I joined Northwave Solutions, I was 23 years old, carrying equal parts hope and fear. Officially, I was a junior marketing intern. Unofficially, I was invisible. My days were filled with tasks that required no opinions and no courage. Copying documents, organizing storage rooms, and delivering coffee to people who barely acknowledged me. During meetings, I sat at the back, typing notes or arranging folders, never speaking unless spoken to. To most people in the building, I wasn't a colleague, I was background noise. It hadn't always been that way. Back in school, I was confident, outspoken, the kind of girl who loved the spotlight. I joined drama clubs, laughed loudly with friends, and never hesitated to raise my hand. But over time, university chipped away at that confidence, failed exams, rejected applications, professors who subtly suggested I wasn't suited for this field. Each disappointment stacked up until by graduation, I was careful, hesitant, afraid that speaking up would only confirm my doubts. Northwave was supposed to be my fresh start. Instead, it quickly became another place where I felt small. While others confidently discussed campaigns and clients, I avoided crowded elevators and busy break rooms. I preferred stairwells and quiet corners where no one expected conversation. "Sarah, can you take care of this?" My supervisor, Karen Whitmore, would say, handing me files or pointing me toward another task that required silence. I always agreed, grateful that I could stay unnoticed. But while my work life felt muted and gray, my life at home was filled with meaning. Because of my younger brother, Leo Mitchell. Leo was 9 years old and deaf since birth. At first, our family struggled to adjust, but for me, learning sign language became a promise. I practiced every night, took online lessons, attended community classes, and slowly turned broken gestures into real conversations. One evening, sitting together on the couch, Leo tapped my arm and carefully signed, "I love you, Sarah." I nearly cried, not just because of the words, but because he trusted me to understand him. That language became my pride, the one skill that felt truly mine. Yet inside Northwave, it felt useless, like having a gift no one cared to see. Sometimes, when no one was watching, I practiced quietly under my desk, shaping silent words while keyboards clacked around me. Once, Olivia caught me moving my hands and joked, "Are you rehearsing for something?" I laughed it off, hiding my hands. I didn't want questions or pity. Every day, I stayed invisible. Every night, Leo reminded me why I mattered. And still, I never imagined that the language I learned for love would matter inside a corporate lobby. Until that Tuesday morning, when an elderly man stood alone, unheard, and everything I believed about being invisible began to change. By early autumn, the air in Brighton had turned crisp and sharp. Inside the marble, floored lobby of Northwave Solutions, the atmosphere buzzed with urgency. Deadlines loomed, presentations were approaching, employees hurried past with phones pressed to their ears and folders clutched tightly under their arms, footsteps echoing like a countdown. I had been placed near the front desk that morning, helping prepare printed packets for a client briefing later that day. It was meant to be another quiet shift. Stay busy, stay invisible, don't draw attention. That plan fell apart the moment I noticed him. He stood just inside the main entrance, tall, impeccably dressed, a dark tailored suit that spoke of old refinement rather than trend. His silver hair was neatly styled, his posture calm and dignified, but his expression betrayed him. His lips moved without sound, and his hands gestured carefully, deliberately, motions most people around him didn't even register. I recognized it instantly. He was signing, and no one was understanding him. At the desk, Olivia Reed looked overwhelmed. She shuffled papers, forced a polite smile, and raised her voice as if volume could bridge the gap. "I'm sorry, sir," she said slowly. "Do you have an appointment? Can you write down who you're here to see?" She slid a notepad toward him. He shook his head, hands moving faster now, frustration slipping through his composure. Behind him, a line of visitors grew impatient. Olivia glanced back, sighed softly, and turned to help the next person, leaving him standing there, dignified, but visibly deflated. I froze. I was just an intern. Karen Whitmore had been very clear that morning. Organize the packets. Don't interfere with reception duties. My instinct screamed to keep my head down, finish the folders, pretend I hadn't noticed. That was safer. That was what the invisible intern would do. But then his shoulders sagged slightly, and in that moment another face filled my mind. Leo, my little brother. I remembered how often people talked over him, how strangers dismissed him, as if silence made him unseen. The thought tightened my chest. Before fear could stop me, I walked forward. My palms were damp. My heart thundered in my ears. The man looked at me cautiously, bracing himself for yet another misunderstanding. I raised my hands and signed, "Hello, can I help you?" The change was immediate. Shock flickered across his face, then relief. Pure, unmistakable relief. His mouth curved into the first genuine smile I'd seen since he entered the building. "You sign," he signed back. "Thank goodness. I thought no one here would understand me." I nodded, my hands steady now. "I'm sorry you've had trouble. What can I do for you?" He exhaled, tension leaving his shoulders. "I'm here to see my son. I don't have an appointment. I was hoping the receptionist could help, but she's very busy." "What's your son's name?" I asked. "Maybe I can reach him." He hesitated just a moment. Pride and vulnerability crossed his eyes before his fingers carefully spelled it out. "Michael Harrington." My heart skipped. Michael Harrington, CEO of Northwave Solutions. The man standing in front of me, calm, patient, nearly ignored, was his father. "You're Mr. Harrington's father?" I asked, keeping my shock hidden. He nodded. "I know he's very busy. I didn't want to be a burden. I just hoped to see him for a few minutes." Something I en hangul kusiat en, is hangul koa, en is hangul kopin. Is his expression hurt more than surprise ever could. This wasn't power or status. This was a father hoping he still had a place in his son's world. "You're not a burden." I signed firmly. "Please have a seat. Let me see what I can do." I guided him toward the lobby seating, making sure we stayed within view so we could keep signing. He thanked me quietly as he sat. My pulse raced as I reached for the phone. I was no one, no authority, no leverage. Still, I dialed the executive office, Mr. Harrington's office. A crisp voice answered. "This is Elaine Porter." My throat tightened. Elaine guarded access like a fortress. "This is Sarah Mitchell from the intern program," I said. "There's a visitor here who says he's Mr. Harrington's father." "Silence! His father," she repeated. "Yes, he's waiting in the lobby." Another pause. "I'll check with Mr. Harrington. Please ask him to wait." When I returned, I relayed the message. He smiled gently. "Thank you. My name is Thomas Harrington." We began to talk, hands moving quietly between us. He told me about his career as an architect, the buildings he'd designed around the city, and his late wife, who had taught at a school for deaf children. Pride filled his expressions when he spoke of Michael, though a shadow passed when he admitted they didn't see each other often anymore. "He's always been determined." Thomas signed. "He wanted to prove nothing held him back. I'm proud of him, but sometimes I worry he's forgotten how to slow down." People glanced at us as we talked, some curious, some irritated by the unusual sight of sign language in the middle of the lobby. For once, I didn't care. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was a bridge. Minutes stretched into nearly an hour. My phone buzzed repeatedly, messages from Karen asking where I was. I ignored them, then I felt it, attention. From the upper gallery overlooking the lobby, a tall figure stood half hidden behind a column. Michael Harrington. He was watching us, watching me, watching his father, the intern who had stepped out of line. My stomach twisted. We eventually returned to the lobby, where Karen stormed toward me, frustration written across her face. "Sarah, you abandoned your assignment," she snapped. "Explain yourself." Before I could speak, another voice cut in. Calm, unmistakable. "Actually, Karen, I need to speak with Sarah first." The lobby fell silent. Michael Harrington stepped forward, eyes moving from me to his father. His expression softened. He lifted his hands, awkward at first, then deliberate. "I'm sorry I kept you waiting," he said aloud while signing. "I didn't know you were here until I saw you with Sarah. I've been watching." Thomas's face lit up with astonishment, then joy. "You've been learning to sign," he replied. Michael nodded, his hands steadied. "I should have done this years ago." Michael signed slowly, his voice steady but heavy with emotion. "I should have met you in your language instead of expecting you to live only in mine." A quiet hush rolled through the lobby like a soft wind. People who moments ago had been busy now stood completely still. A creative lead blinked rapidly, holding back tears. Someone from finance pressed a hand to her mouth. Karen Whitmore's rigid posture softened. Olivia Reed released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Thomas stepped forward. Years of distance measured not in space, but in silence collapsed in an instant. Father and son met halfway, arms wrapping around each other in a firm, quiet embrace. No speeches, no spectacle, just understanding. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then a few gentle claps began, respectful, soft, real. I stood there feeling both invisible and impossibly seen. All I had done was say hello, and somehow a door had opened that could never fully close again. They pulled apart. "I'm proud of you," Thomas signed. Michael smiled, relief and regret woven together. "I'm proud of you too. I'm sorry it took me so long." Then he turned to me, Ms. Mitchell. He said, "Authority still present, but warmer now. Would you come with me to my office? There are some things we need to discuss." My stomach dipped. "Yes, sir." I glanced at Thomas. He gave me a small nod, encouragement and permission in one. Karen cleared her throat. "Mr. Harrington, the presentation deck for this afternoon. We'll handle it." Michael replied gently, eyes never leaving me. He gestured toward the executive elevator. We moved together, Michael leading, me beside him, Thomas just behind. The lobby slowly returned to motion as we passed. The elevator chimed. Polished doors reflected 3 figures, my anxious expression, Thomas's quiet pride, Michael's composed resolve. Inside silence, the elevator hummed upward. Ms. Mitchell. Michael said at last, "What you did today was right even if it wasn't on your task list. You revealed a gap here that I can't ignore. I swallowed. Sir, the doors started to close. A hand stopped them. Karen stepped inside, cheeks flushed but steadier now. If decisions are being made about Sarah, I should be present. Michael considered, then nodded once. Very well. The elevator sealed and climbed. When we reached the executive floor, the quiet surprised me. Thick carpet softened every step. Michael's office was spacious but restrained floor. Ceiling windows overlooking the city, awards lining the walls like reminders rather than trophies. He didn't go behind his desk. Instead, he pulled up a chair beside us and sat. That choice said everything. "Ms. Mitchell," he began, "I owe you both an apology and an explanation." "An apology?" I asked. "Yes, you were assigned tasks today. Instead, you spent hours guiding my father through this company, listening, translating, advocating. I watched all of it." I rushed to explain, but he raised a hand. "You don't need to justify anything. What you did wasn't a mistake. It was the most meaningful thing anyone here has done in a very long time." He turned to Thomas. "Dad, I've watched you come here 3 times in the last decade. Each time, I let people treat you like an interruption. I told myself I was too busy to fix it." Thomas met his eyes. No anger, just truth. Michael looked back at me. Today, that changed. I saw a junior intern choose humanity over convenience, and I realized something. We talk about inclusion, but we don't live it. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. "I just thought of my brother," I said quietly. "He's deaf. I've seen people walk past him like he doesn't exist. I couldn't let that happen here." Michael nodded slowly. "Your instincts were right. That's why I'd like to offer you a permanent position." My breath caught. "A position, yes. I'm creating a new department, accessibility and inclusion. I want you to lead it. You'd report directly to me." I stared. "Sir, I'm just an intern. I don't have management experience. You don't," he agreed calmly. "But you have empathy. You see people as human beings, not inconveniences. And you have a skill set this company didn't even realize it needed." Thomas gently touched my arm and signed. "You changed everything today." Michael leaned back. "Think about it. Take the weekend. Talk to your family, especially your brother. This is not a token role. I want real change." I nodded, barely able to speak. 6 months after that day, Northwave Solutions was transformed. Sarah Mitchell, once the invisible intern, was now Director of Accessibility and Inclusion. She began with a full audit of the company: physical spaces, digital platforms, internal systems. The first change was simple but powerful visual alert systems installed throughout the building, so no one would ever miss an emergency again. Then came interpreters, live captions, accessible documentation, training programs. There was resistance at first. Quiet eye rolls, whispers about doing too much. Sarah didn't stop. Her turning point came unexpectedly one afternoon in the break room. Karen Whitmore, her former supervisor, sat alone practicing basic sign language on an app. I figured it was time I stopped pretending I knew everything. Karen said, "Change spread, optional ASL lunches, inclusive onboarding, accessible marketing campaigns." Clients who had once felt excluded began returning. One email, forwarded to Sarah by Michael, contained only 3 words: "I felt seen." Soon after, Northwave was nominated, and won, a National Inclusion Award. At the ceremony, Sarah stood beside an interpreter and said, "Accessibility isn't charity, it's dignity. The most important skill we can learn is seeing the humanity in every person." Every Thursday at 11:45 a.m., Thomas Harrington walked into the building, no longer overlooked, always welcomed. Michael's signing grew fluent, and sometimes during school breaks, Leo came with his sister. On his 3rd visit, he tugged her sleeve and signed, "Do you think I could work here someday?" Sarah smiled and signed back, "If you want to. This place sees people like you." She meant it. Because one quiet intern had chosen to step forward, and in doing so, made space for others to finally be seen,